Absolutely delighted now to be joined by Professor Chabannon. Professor, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you for having me.
So a lot of the sessions at this conference have been talking about new therapies. What do you think are some of the kind of major initiatives that are first and foremost at the moment?
Well, the Congress reflects on the struggling to bring these new therapies to increasing numbers of patients, and especially European patients. Europe has been pioneering many of these new therapies, but is somewhat lagging behind in terms of applications to large number of patients, commercializations. And the hot topic in this edition of the annual meeting is how do we solve the logistics for the supply chain, for example, and bring these treatments practically to our patients. How do we get organized in the clinical field to make sure that side effects that can be quite impressive, quite important, and eventually life-threatening, how do we manage these situations for the benefit of patients?
So why is it then that, as you say, a lot of the breakthroughs happen in Europe, but it's hard to translate that into clinical practice?
It's always been a challenge for European countries and European science to take advantage of the discoveries that were made by local research teams and translate that into a commercial application and even more into a commercial success. So it turns out that if we think of CAR T cells, for example, which is really the hot topic at the moment, most of the clinical developments were carried out in the US in the context of very strong partnerships between industry and excellent academic centers. And Europe is now trying to get back in the race, if I can say so.
Why are CAR T cells so important?
They are important because they are life-saving treatments for patients who have exhausted all other options, including, in some cases, regular, if I can call it that way, regular transplantation.
Well, how does it work?
Well, it works by reprogramming the T cells, the either autologous T cells coming from the patient himself or herself, or allogeneic T cells coming from a third-party donor, and retargeting those cells to recognize a specific target on the tumor cells. So at the moment, the proof of concept has been brought only in a very specific and narrow category of diseases, but what everybody is looking for is whether we can extend this success to other categories of neoplastic diseases.
So my final question, if we're looking forward to Frankfurt in 2019, what do you think some of the topics will be then?
I think we'll still be talking a lot about these new therapies, but historical transplant is not dead. I used to compare our field with the airline industry. You know, there is room both for low-cost companies and for regular companies that even provide business class or first class to a fraction of their customers. And I think our world is changing. We'll never go back, but we will have more opportunities. And the good news is that we have new opportunities for patients with lethal disease or debilitating diseases. Now we need to find the way to bring those new treatments to a higher proportion of patients.
Well, thank you very much indeed for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.